Hello students, I am Dr. Nilesh Sawant from Sawant Science Academy, back with the last lecture of this topic, that is biological classification. So we have all completed till kingdom fungi, and now kingdom plantae and kingdom animalia will be seen in detail in the next chapters. So we'll end with this, the last section, that is the viruses, viroids and lichens. So why these are separated? Because these are the organisms which are not classified in the Whittaker system, because we have seen the 5 kingdoms, and in that these were not mentioned in any of these. Simple reason, because they have acellular, because these are acellular, and obviously they don't find any place in any classification, because the criteria is it first of all, living organism should contain cellular organization, and these lack cellular content, viruses and viroids. Lichens on the other hand are a little bit different, so that's why they are included over here, because they can't be placed in any of the groups in that sense. So in this way, if we see these 3 organisms, so we'll see these 3 how they are, means how these organisms live, survive and all. So let's see something first about viruses. First we'll see about their discovery and all. So which were the scientists that what you can say found कि these were also an organism and entities that are present but they couldn't be classified. So सबसे first जो है about the viruses, who coined the term viruses. So you can clearly see Louis Pasteur was the one who coined this term virus, which comes from the meaning that is venom or poisonous. ठीक है, venom poisonous से वो derive word किया है viruses, because actually they are quite dangerous, because we know these viruses, as mentioned by Stanley, they are obligate parasites. Obligate parasite means compulsorily all of the viruses are some disease causing or like parasitic, you can say, which will harm the host, and that's why they are obligatory parasites, which was given by Stanley. Next, DJ Ivanovsky, he was the one who actually said this, कि the tobacco mosaic, that is the mosaic disease of tobacco, is caused by an entity which is smaller even than the bacteria. Means he couldn't even get to know actually what means, he was only able to, what you can say, find कि there is something smaller than bacteria, and what he was suggesting was simply the viruses. M.W. Bejernik, Bejernik, he found that what he did was he did one experiment where he took an infected plant with tobacco mosaic disease. He took some of the leaves and crushed it, and you can say took a fluid out of it, and then he transferred this, or rather he applied this on near the healthy plant. So what he saw was the even healthy plant got infected by that disease. So he called that fluid, means there was something in the, what you can say, in the infected plant which was then transferred to the healthy plant, which caused it the disease, and he called that fluid as contagium vivum fluidum, means infectious living fluid. Okay, so he considered it as an infectious living fluid. So he gave this term. This can be asked in entrances. Okay, so this will be what you can say, it's important for entrances. Next one, W.M. Stanley, he was the first one who isolated these viruses, and that too in crystalline form, and he also said that these are obligate parasites. Okay, so these were some of the findings, or rather how these scientists came to know about the viruses. We will see some of the features of viruses. So what are actually viruses and all, let's see that. So first of all, the characteristic features of viruses. So what are the characteristic features of viruses? What are the types वगैरह, ये सब हम देखते हैं. Characteristics of, दिखाई है viruses, so I'll just write this characteristics. Now सबसे first, these are acellular. ठीक है, these are acellular entities. Apart from that, very small and microscopic organisms, very small microscopic organisms means if we look at the size of the viruses, the size of the smallest bacteria that we know, smallest bacteria जो होगा वो इस वायरस का सबसे बड़ा साइज है. मतलब viruses can go even smaller, means the size of the viral what you can say organism, you can say in that way. So एक वायरस की size is even smaller than the smallest of the bacteria. So hence they are very ultra microscopic, you can call them. So they are very small, microscopic, and also what you can say cellular, very small microscopic organisms we can call them. Okay. Next one, if we look at the composition, body composition, so viruses consist of mainly two parts. First one is the outer covering, which is called obviously the capsid. Okay, and this capsid is generally made up of proteins or glycoproteins. Okay, generally these are made up of proteins or glycoproteins, the outer covering. Okay, and next is the inner inner part has the genetic material, inside, which is protected in this capsid, and that genetic material is DNA or RNA, but never both. So remember this, they will have genetic material DNA or RNA. जैसे in humans or in eukaryotic organisms, they even prokaryotic, DNA and RNA both are present in the cell, but simultaneously in a virus they will be either DNA or RNA, never both. There is also difference found in that, means you can even find single stranded DNA as a genetic material and double stranded DNA as a genetic material in viruses, even double stranded RNA and single stranded RNA. These are the possible variations that you can find as genetic material in viruses. This is the thing. Now looking at the capsid. Capsid generally consists of, okay, it consists of small pieces. So you can divide that capsid in small pieces, or what you can say small sections, which we call as capsomere, which are known as capsomeres. Okay, so these, with the help of small capsomeres, this capsid is formed, within which you will find the genetic material. So this is the case. Next, now how do they act? So as said earlier, these are obligate parasites. Okay, these are obligate parasites, and they are considered to be at the threshold of living and non-living. Why? Because outside the host they are as good as non-living thing. मतलब जब तक ये किसी living host के अंदर नहीं है, बाहर है, outside the host they are like as good as you can say like non-living thing, because outside the host they can be crystallized, okay, stored for a long time in that sense. Okay, so they can be crystallized, stored for a very long time, but once inside they become active inside the host. Okay, they become active and cause certain diseases. Okay, cause a pathology, active and cause diseases. Okay, let it be plants, let it be animals, even they don't leave, even bacteria also. Some viruses even infect the bacteria also. We'll see those in the types. Now obviously they don't eat, they do not eat. Why they are called, means why they are not classified simply? Because simply they do not grow, they do not eat, okay, do not respire. Okay, so in this way, if you see, no life processes are evident in the viruses, and hence we are categorizing it differently. So they do not grow, they do not eat, means you cannot what you can say grow viruses on culture medium. जैसे बैक्टीरियाज होता है कि अगर जेल के ऊपर मैंने कुछ बैक्टीरियाज डाले तो विद इन फ्यू डेज अगर हम देखें तो उसकी पूरी कॉलोनी आ जाती है. Viruses cannot be grown like that. That's the big issue. They can only multiply within the host cell. तो वही है. They use metabolic machinery. They use metabolic machinery of host to multiply. Of host to multiply. So जो host cell है ये उसके ऑर्गेनेलीज का इस्तेमाल करके खुद डेवलप होगा. ठीक है. सो आई जस्ट गिव यू अ शॉर्ट एग्जांपल. नाउ सपोज करो दिस इज अ सेल एंड लेट अस से we'll take a different chalk for that. Suppose this is a virus. ठीक है. Suppose this is a virus. These are its, suppose the knobs or the antigen sites we can say on the capsid, and this is the genetic material. Let's say that. Now if you see this is the genetic material, or this is the nucleus of the normal cell. So what it will have its own genetic material. So what the virus will do over here, it will inject its genetic material over here inside the cell. Generally if it's DNA, that DNA will be merged with the original DNA of the cell. If suppose some viruses are RNA, they will first convert the RNA into DNA. Such kind of viruses are known as retrovirus. HIV is classically of this type. So generally if it is RNA, so they have also an enzyme, reverse transcriptase, which converts that RNA into DNA, and finally that DNA merges with the host cell. Then they take over these organelles of the cell, means they signal the organelles to produce the necessary proteins for capsid and the genetic material, and the genetic material and the protein is formed within the cell. Later on they assemble also, the genetic material goes inside, and later on these viruses will burst out from the cells. So they don't have any own machinery to reproduce or multiply, so they use the metabolic machinery of the host cell to multiply in this. So that's why they are quite dangerous, because our body cannot destroy our own cells, and they live in the cells, and the cell becomes a virus factory. The cell itself will form those viruses, and it will multiply in that way. So inside the body they are very dangerous. Okay. And we have only very weak line of defense for that. Means inside our body naturally interferons are the chemicals which can actually slow down the growth of viruses and all, and that can be used to kill them. But apart from that, in our immunity there is nothing to beat with these viruses. Even very few diseases of viruses we have some cure to that. Okay, majority of the diseases they don't have any cure for this. So it's all on your immunity to fight with these pathogens, and surely we can overcome this. Okay. But one of the major dreadful diseases are due to viruses: measles, mumps, then HIV you can say. So these are some of the diseases, and many more are there which are due to virus caused. Okay. So they use the metabolic machinery of the host to multiply over there. So this is how viruses behave rather. Okay. So these are some of the basic characteristics of that. We'll see one more thing, shapes. In this characteristic, one more point I will add to this. Generally there are various shapes. Okay, generally there are various shapes. Either they are helical, they say in plant viruses. I would like to explain in the distinguish the types of viruses. I will elaborate that point. So next point अपन वही देखते हैं, types of viruses. Now characteristics are done, so we'll go for types of viruses. Now basically speaking, viruses are of three types. First is the plant viruses. ठीक है, plant viruses. Next one is the animal viruses. Next one is the animal viruses, and the third one is the bacteriophage. ठीक है, that means bacteria infecting viruses that infect bacteria. Now obviously plant viruses की अगर हम बात करें, generally the genetic material the genetic material in plant viruses mostly is RNA. ठीक है, mostly the genetic material is RNA. In animal viruses genetic material can be both, either मतलब some viruses are of they contain DNA, some जैसे HIV वगैरह they have RNA. So we can find viruses with DNA and RNA both, which infect the animals. ठीक है, whereas strictly in case of bacteriophages, means one which infect the bacteria, they are strictly DNA. ठीक है, they consist of only DNA viruses. Next one, shapes. Generally these are helical form, means how they look like. So suppose this is the genetic material. ठीक है, so it is covered by, so I'll use some different color. So now you will see the covering is in helical form around this, and they have small units known as capsomeres. So they are arranged helically and they are made up of some units, small units known as capsomeres. So this outer covering of this virus, this yellow thing, is known as the capsomere, single small unit, and that is the capsid. And inside that capsid generally you will find the genetic material. So these are mostly helical like, jabki this is polyhedral or spherical or oval, you can say. So animal viruses are mostly spherical, oval, polyhedral like, and bacteriophages, these are mostly tadpole like. ठीक है, these are mostly tadpole like. तो जैसे सबको पता है बैक्टीरियोफाज, तो उसके ऊपर तुम्हें ऐसा कवरिंग मिलता है and you can find this structures and you have this genetic material inside. So it's polyhedral in means shape में, but ज़्यादा specific word will be the tadpole like. ठीक है, and obviously all are infectious. So these are the basic point of difference between the plant viruses and animal viruses. Examples देने के लिए तो मैंने जैसे बोला measles है, mumps है, small pox है, chicken pox है, HIV है. So ये कुछ तुम्हें लर्न करने हैं. वैसे भी आगे हमें ह्यूमन हेल्थ एंड डिजीज लेसन है ही 12th स्टैंडर्ड में. So you'll have to learn some of this disease causing viruses. ठीक है, जो mainly हमें around दिखते हैं. So this is rather the viruses. Hope so the concept of viruses is quite clear to all. The shape, genetic material, what they can show. ठीक है, so retroviruses क्या होते हैं वो भी मैंने बताया कि the bacteria where the genetic material actually is RNA, but later on when the time of infection comes, they generally convert the RNA into DNA. ठीक है, so if we speak of this, so this is the end of viruses. So the next one is that is viroids. ठीक है, तो वायरस यहाँ पे खत्म होता है. Let's see viroids. ठीक है, so viroids क्या है? तो again these are nothing but low molecular weight pieces of infectious RNA. Means these, अब इनमें सिर्फ जेनेटिक मटेरियल होता है. They don't have any protein capsid covering it. So the only the thing which is present in viroid is a low molecular weight infectious virus. ठीक है, infectious RNA means only the genetic material is present of low molecular weight. The capsid, the protein coat generally is absent in this. ठीक है, it was first noticed by Theodor Danier. ठीक है, Danier he noticed this, and the first viroid which was noticed was PSTV, that is potato spindle tuber virus. Potato spindle tuber virus. This was the first viroid, sorry, not virus, viroid. So this was the first viroid which was found out, ठीक है, by Theodor Danier and in somewhat 1971. And after that some 15 odd viroids were discovered, and exclusively what we can say, what we have seen is they are basically obligate plant parasites. The diseases that we have seen, they are mostly found to be caused until now. ठीक है, या मतलब up till now the diseases that viroids cause is basically in plants only. So they are obligate plant disease causing, and we can't call them as organisms also, so we'll call them as microbe. ठीक है, अभी जो दिया है, so we'll consider it. So they are not living, but we are still calling it like that way because they are disease causing in the plants. So hope so viroids also you have understood is low molecular weight of infectious RNA. Theodor Denier, he found viroids in somewhat 1971 के करीब, and PSTV was the first viroid, potato spindle tuber viroids. They also cause many plant disease. ठीक है, तो exclusively they are first found in plants only. So this is the only thing you need to know about viroids. Similarly to viroids, one more thing is pyrions. Now these are opposite of this, means they are nothing but infectious highly folded proteins. मतलब like इसमें RNA है, protein नहीं, so these are like capsids or protein, but they lack genetic material. ठीक है, so they also cause even some disease in humans also. So these are infectious highly folded structural proteins, highly folded proteins, which are again disease causing proteins. ठीक है, and they don't have any genetic material to that. So just remember these two things, viroids and pyrions. And the last one that is given is the lichens. I have also explained this in the topic where we saw fungus, because where in there we saw the symbiotic relationship between the fungus and the algae. So lichens basically is nothing but symbiotic. ठीक है, it's a symbiotic, जिसे अपन give and take relation बोलते हैं, symbiotic relation between algae and fungus. ठीक है, algae and fungi. ठीक है, algae और fungi का ये मिक्सचर है ना. इसमें होता क्या है, lichen consists of two components, वही देखते हैं और दोनों के फायदे नुकसान भी देखते हैं. So algae, this is known as photobiont, मतलब which survives on light. Biont means living and photo means light. And दूसरा जो है वो है fungus. So myco word is stands for fungus. Mycobiont. So these are the fungus part of it. Now देखो दोनों के अपने अपने फायदे नुकसान. Means there are some plus points in algae, there are some minus points in algae. There are some plus points in fungi, there are some minus points in fungi. But association, both of the drawbacks of both of the organisms are overcome. Like advantage over here कि these are photosynthetic, means these are autotrophs. Simply we can call them as they are autotrophs. They can prepare their own food. But what's the problem over here? They lack root system, a proper root system for absorption of water and minerals. So that's a weak point in in algae, and strong point is they can prepare their own food. Whereas in fungi, they have a comparatively strong, or rather better, I would say better root system as compared to algae. Then also they produce toxins in their defense, so they are not easily infected by anyone. That is one plus point for fungus. And one other disadvantage is simply these are heterotrophs. ठीक है, so here you can see if both associate to form lichens, so what it will do is fungus will grow on the bottom half, and on that the algae can flourish. So this combination is known as lichens, where fungus with its better root system can absorb better nutrients, and those nutrients will be supplied to the algae. Algae will perform photosynthesis and prepare food and give some part of the food to the fungus. So both are benefited. This is like give and take relationship. Fungus is helping the algae to get better nutrient supply. Algae in return is giving some of the food that he prepares via photosynthesis to the fungus, and both live in association. So in this way, a healthy relationship is there between these two organisms, and that's why these lichens survive in this way. Now So hope so you have got this key how lichens survive. So these are the plus points, these are the minus points of both, and both are compensated by each other. Now lichens also play a very important role in our ecosystem because they are said to be the pioneers of every ecosystem because they can live in very harsh climate. If you see habitat of lichens, you can find them in very much contrast habitats, like you can find them in even deserts. The hot rocks, they can grow on the rocks in form of small layers. So from there to even the coldest area, that is the taiga regions, or the cold frozen areas, that is the snowfall areas, वहां पे भी तुम्हें ये ग्रो होते हुए नजर आते हैं. दे फॉर्म द की फूड फॉर दोज रेनडियर्स एंड ऑल. ठीक है, मॉसेस के साथ साथ रेनडियर्स के साथ ये लाइकेंस आल्सो प्ले rather it's an important food for those animal in those areas. So you can see they can grow in very hot areas, they can grow in cold areas, they can even grow in moist areas like the forests and all. So they have a very wide range of habitats which these can live. Secondly, they are said to be pioneers. If there is an what you can say, a ecosystem where there is no what you can say life yet, so these are the first one to invade that area. They will grow on rocks, they can grow on rocks. If there is also no soil for them, they can grow on rocks. What they will do, they will penetrate their roots in the rocks, which we know which cause cracking, and during the day and night cycles, and the water will go in those cracks of the rocks and they will break those rocks. So they play a very important role in pedogenesis. Pedogenesis means formation of soil. So they can create a barren area also into a fertile area, means they can, rocky area can be converted, means the top layer will be converted into soil where other organisms can start growing, and obviously then that ecosystem will flourish. So they are said to be the pioneers over there. They naturally help in soil formation, okay, that we call it as pedogenesis. Then again they are excellent source of food for the animals over there, okay, so they can be eaten also, some of them for surely, and that's why lichens are very much important. They are also very good pollution indicators. This is one of the main thing. They can, because they are very sensitive to pollution. If any pollution, they will die off. So they act as pollution indicators. So if you find lichens in a certain region, you can be rest for sure that the quality of air in that region will be at least very good, okay, or worth sustaining. So these are the lichens. Hope so the lesson is done over here. So hope so guys सबको ये lesson समझा है. So here we end with the second lesson of biology. So in the next video we will start from the third lesson, that is kingdom plantae. So guys, hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon for further notification. See you later.